Join us at your own university. Like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. You're not going to want to miss a bit of this.
Hello, welcome back. So good to see you. You and Tika and shit. Okay, starting over. Damn it. I just know you as that. Okay. Oh, that was so good otherwise. Hello, welcome back. Great to see you. You, Lisha, and you, our audience. Today we'll be talking about the polarities of duality within the context of mind. So we're walking through the zones, and this is the second zone we're covering. And this is our topic. Duality alone is such a big one, right, Lisha?
It's huge. It's huge. And we talked last week about, or last podcast about the body and how we have all these different dualities and masculine and feminine and different energies within our body, right? And different belief systems within our body. And then just the left and right portions of our body and all things physical, right, is in duality. And so now we're going to talk about mind and mindset, which, I mean, we could spend probably a year, you guys, right? Like talking about just the different aspects of mind. And I mean, every thought that we have, there's a polar opposite. Every belief that we have, there's a different belief. I was just talking to a client about that actually yesterday, right? We're talking about being, right? And she's like, well, I'm just being. And I'm like, well, there's a positive and a negative aspect to the concept of being.
Yeah.
And there's positive and positive and negative aspect in the concept of doing. So that's just being and doing are kind of another way of saying masculine and feminine. And
that's interesting.
But within themselves, we can continuously break this down like the molecule, right? Just like breaking down. So this is a huge topic. So anyway, what are you thinking about duality and mindset?
Well, first off, I mean, what you've just described illuminates that the polarities, masculine, feminine, or maybe it's just negative and positive. This is something I should double check. Are with you, are in everything. So everything that exists is within, at least as we can experience it or acknowledge it or conceptualize or whatever. In all of that, to the horizon for us as humans. Anything we can see as a whole is also happening in polar opposites for us. Is that accurate to what you said?
One of this, I think that's, I mean, it's a universal law, but I think it's one of the big laws of the earth plane, of our existence as humans. Like, however you guys, agree or disagree, like how expansive that concept is. But I mean, we can all agree we're on Earth, we're in human form. We're thinking, we're being, and there's some element of control and quantum physics and science and epigenetics and the quantum realm and all of this stuff has really discovered that we have this power of thought, and that what we think and what we believe in some essence creates or reflects or impacts, at the very least, our own perceptions and our own reality. And that there are these ultimate laws. And so one of the laws is the law of polarity, and there's the law of duality. And so everything in the universe has a polar opposite. So there's always a positive and always a negative. There's always a positive being the doing, the force, the action part of it, the masculine, and the negative being the being, the receiving, the receptive, the pull of the feminine. And so our thoughts, every friggin' thought that we have, are on these lines. And when it comes to our belief system, it's vast, because we have all this programming. My Amazing You program is all about, and what I train people in coaching around at your own university, is all about how do we navigate and reprogram and claim our independence over our subconscious mind, which is our nervous system, so we can have our own thoughts and lean into this perception. But for every friggin' perception, there's a dual. So if there's like lack is a really big one, right? So we lack love, and you might want like that ultimate relationship, right? Or you lack money and you might want the better job, or more sales, or something, right? You lack health, right? And so you want better health. Like those are the main three things, right? That we spend bazillions of dollars each month, each week, each second probably in the world, people buying things for love, for health, and for more money. And all of it has polarities. All of it has dualities, and we all only can see our perceptions because it's all on perspective. So if you're looking at the lack of, there's that equal and opposite abundance of perspective that you can reach for when it comes to mindset. But before you can get to any of that, we have to know what we actually believe.
Well, I'm definitely downloading this episode myself to review, because you just unpacked like a ton. I'm trying to keep track of my.
Expect that.
That was fantastic. I love it. I was just trying to take notes in my head, and and then of course my mind was imagining taking notes, and then my mind was imagining saying, well, maybe I should be taking notes during these sessions regularly, moving away from something, which is probably its own topic that I'd like to get into. So many things to choose from. So there's what I just said, I'm interested about. There was, I heard you say that, I thought I heard you say that you talked about polarities and duality as if they're two separate things. I would think they're the same. That was another question. And then there was something else that I lost. See, I can only keep track of two things at once, which reminds me of multitasking. I've just been talking to someone about a different subject. So what about, why don't we just address if we can, the last thing I mentioned. Okay, so what was my mind doing there?
Polarity.
Yeah, so what was my mind doing? Was my mind, I was expressing, okay, then this thought occurred in this one and this one, in a way, and I was getting further away from, as they say, myself, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt more, I think, because I'm sensitive and I can feel what I'm feeling, and it's hard to catch, but I'm pretty sure I was starting to kind of tighten up, right? And to feel less connected to myself. Are these words that you can say, but like, what does that mean, and how useful is it to talk about them? Maybe we can do some of that now. Was I perhaps not relaxing to the extent that, well, A, my nervous system was relaxed, but that B, I was able to hold the duality or polarities, whichever word you'd use, at once, and that I was actually following a particular course, therefore inevitably, by definition, etc., not following another course, because there are two, therein creating that tension. Would you say that's a fair assessment of what was happening in this context, or how would you look at that?
Yeah, because what I'm hearing you say, this is why it's so great to have these conversations. Like, truly, this podcast is this beautiful conversation. What I'm hearing you say is that as you move further away, as your thoughts became less and less about your experience and more about the action or the external, like you should take notes, right? Oh, maybe I should take notes on all of these. Maybe I should, you got into the doing. It took you away, right? The duality of it is it took you away from the beingness. And so it felt like a separation. And I think that in itself is the lie.
Can you say a little more about that? I'm not sure that everyone would understand what you mean by that. I don't fully understand that. What do you mean by the lie?
Well, I don't know if lie is the best word for it, but I think we give, like, my question is like, why can't we have the doingness and the external perception with just as much awareness when we're in that process of taking the notes or thinking about taking the notes or being in the thing? Why do we give it less credibility than if we're just present and being like, well, I'm feeling tension, I'm feeling tightness, right? Because the tension and tightness is creating this inertia to do something, right? To call forward the action of you taking notes, which would be the masculine, right? But without the tightness, you wouldn't know that there's this desire. So that presence of being is super important to recognize. This would be the duality part of it, right? You recognize the tension, but instead of the tension being bad, it's more like a catalyst for you to take action and take notes or listen to the podcast again, right? And so you're working within duality. So I think the last question that you asked was like, is there the law of duality and the law of polarity? And actually, I don't have my book up here, I don't think. I don't know why I would. It's more of my personal study downstairs. But I believe that they're two different laws of the universe, actually. And this is how I see it. I see the duality as an internal and an external, as the masculine and the feminine, as the being and the doing, and finding that place where we can be and do at the same time. Right?
Yeah. Which, sorry, go ahead.
And the polarity I see as more of an external thing. Like for all the good, there's equal bad, right? For every, it's still positive and negative, it's still masculine and feminine, but it's for every action, there's a reaction. It's the law of cause and effect.
Okay. So when you are referring to being and doing, it sounds like you're referring to both of those being within the internal and then the external as something separate. Is that what
That's how I'm feeling it and how I understand it. I could be totally, off base. I'm not like the I'll know all, right? So everybody leave comments. Like, how do you feel it? How are you experiencing this? Like how do you define duality for yourself? And how does that play a part on your perception? So I think the biggest thing with mindset for today's topic is our internal and external perception of any given situation. So the external would be a judgment or a belief or a right or wrong kind of take, I think, on something. Like, this is how I believe this is the right way of doing it, right? Or a judgment, this is how I believe, if you're going to be selling something, I don't know a belief right now, for some reason it's not coming up, but if you're going to be selling something online, say, well, I believe that people that sell things online are sleazy. Then you get a job where they're asking you to go sell something online and you can't sell anything, and then you're mad, right? That you're not being effective. But really, it's because of this belief over here of a previous perception. Say somebody sold you something and it didn't come in the mail, or it didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. That solidified this belief of yours. So that's the belief. The duality is, I get great things online. I've bought amazing programs and things from people. I just ordered a really cool desk thing for my kids, right? Like all of this great things online. And so not all things online are bad. So this perception we get to change. This is a horrible, I don't know about horrible, but it's like, I don't know if it's a really good take on it. I'm trying to like make it accountable for everybody. But there's this belief system. We are going to believe what we believe creates a perception, period. And what you believe is what you think, and their judgments, their ideas, and it's programming, nervous system programming. So if you believe that sales are bad online, you're going to get that internal closing, right? Even if what you're about to buy or not buy, because that internal programming, that perception, that belief from whatever, mom said, never buy anything online. The internet's scary, right? And then that was in 1972. There wasn't even anything there. Okay. That was in 1984 when the internet first came out. She made that decision, right? And then you grew up that way, so you didn't buy anything online. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a job where you're working for Google and you have to sell things online. And you don't know why it's not working. It's because your mom said, never ever do this. This is bad. And you believe this. So when you have the sale online, your body goes into that beingness of tension. It says, no, 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 no. But really, that's not for your highest good. Because now everything is sold online. Right? There's great people, amazing products selling online. So, but this old belief is creating your mental perception, which creates a block for you to be able to fully enjoy prospering online. Does that make sense?
I think we have a great opportunity here because I feel that we're looking at the same thing and painting two, with different brushes. And I think this is the case for everyone, right? And
yeah, that's duality itself. It's a perception.
Cool. And so I'm wanting to learn how to understand what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the painting that you're painting of this picture. So I just want to look at this like we're both looking at the same subject, but subject's a tricky word because when you get into that subject object, it's its own thing. But we're looking at the same thing and we're just painting different pictures. So I want to understand how to see your picture the way that you do. And for me, part of an opportunity here is that I know enough about the zones and the subzones within those that I believe that you're touching on some of that. And I think from my side of currently understanding your picture less than you do, I think it would be helpful for me and maybe for others to hear a little bit about like the subzones if you're up for sharing those or in general talking about them. I think that would help me understand more and help everyone and yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, if you don't know like what I do, I help reprogram the nervous system so you have full authority in your life. And I work with people that have had either training to be a coach or have had really tumultuous childhoods. Okay, childhoods where they had no control, that they were told how to think, who to be, what they feel, that they learned how to people please and or totally rebel, one or the other, and it's not working for them anymore in their life. And so in the zone, the 6 personal power zones, which each are a department at your own university, we talked about last week the body zone or the physical department and duality there. Now we're talking about the mental zone and duality here. So the thing with duality is that I see duality as internal and external, that there's a dual reality. There's my internal reality that for me, I do my best to keep it, and I think you do too, Jason, like really clear. I want to be clear on how I feel. That's how you can notice your compression and your expansion. And then the external. And when we're overly focused on the external, our value comes from the external, our experience are very, how do they feel, or judgment oriented, or getting the best car or the best program, like all these external things determine your level of love and value and health and well-being. And so they're both important though. I think in the spiritual world, as far as mindset goes, especially in the spiritual world, my more spiritual clients, it's all about the internal, right? And there's like this denial of the impact of the external, which is the duality. And for other people that are in codependence or coming out of bad relationships, or grew up really with a high acceptance of just this perception, this ability to handle a lot of shit, right? Like we're really, really nice to people. Like people can really treat us like crap, and we're like, oh, it's okay, we still love you. And we have this needy for friends, right? And it's just not a healthy place to be. But we have this, it's like a really great capacity perception for pain or being treated negatively because we grew up in an experience of that. So the internal is uncomfortable. So we focus on the external, or the internal, we don't know if we can trust it. So we focus on the external, or the external has been so bad that our whole perception has been, eggshells, walking on those eggshells. So I help people reclaim that internal place so then they can read the external better. Mindset is huge here because we grew up with beliefs. So one of the layers is just your common beliefs, your judgments. If I was only 20 pounds thinner, then I'd be loved, right? It's just a belief thing. The other areas is the areas of your brain. So we have our subconscious mind, which is 90% of our thoughts that we're trained before we were 12, really before we were 7, but it's more unconscious reality is before we're 7, 12, 18, and then it solidifies, our brain solidifies about 28, and it becomes harder for the external world to shift our reality. I think at this point, my own theory is it's actually easier for us to shift our own internal reality after age 28, because we're no longer absorbing how to be human from the external world. So again, I'm going into this teaching, which I absolutely love to do, but these are some of the zones, right? So we kind of look at it like, or some of the layers of this mindset zone. So you have your autonomic nervous system, right? Which is your heart rate, that dense, condensed feeling and everything. But if you're used to living in an environment where you're not enough, that's a really common feeling, belief of most people, is I'm not enough. So we're striving. You have this condensed feeling in your nervous system. Your heart rate goes up when you're triggered by I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough, I'm not this enough, that enough, all these judgments. And until we clear those judgments from your nervous system, okay, your cellular structure, your nervous system, you can do a lot of mindset work and it won't shift anything. That's why having a private coach like Jason or me or somebody else is, or therapist or hypnotherapy or EFT, all these things work so good to shift that unconscious. Then we have our subconscious mind, which is all your memories. And these can so mess us up, you guys, because like when we don't hear them, it's constant chatter. It's why meditation is so powerful in this realm, because constant chatter. And if like we kind of have this duality in them. So a duality for me here is I found this belief in my head, in my heart, that was been crippling me my entire life. And it's this belief of evil, being bad, and God being mad at me. And I believe this because I was beat for being white. I believe this because no matter how well I vacuumed, I was beat. I believe this because I was molested and hurt and acting out, and they took me to church and they were trying to like wash Satan off of me. And so I just decided, I must be horrible because I attracted all of this bad stuff into my family. It must be my fault. And as I got into more psychology and positive psychology, it even affirmed that, right? Like I must be really bad because I create my own reality, and I created this reality, and I came in and my soul did this. But I had this whole story. Well, on the other side, like I do a lot of great work in the world. I'm really giving. I'm really loving. I believe in people. I'm supporting people all the time. Like I'm not that way at all. Like I'm not evil. But I've spent my whole life like proving that I wasn't and that I'm doing good enough work. I mean, even to the point of finishing my doctorate. And it's like, it's this duality, right? It's this duality of this outside perception that created my subconscious memories, that gave me this push to prove that I'm not equal. But it blocks me in other ways too. And this not good enough is totally common for all my clients. And it's it's a subconscious belief system. Well, we can believe and affirm our thoughts as much as we want in this internal external duality, but until we shift our nervous system and say, oh, I absolutely believe that, even though it sounds like total hogwash and I know better, in our frontal lobe, the other piece, I know better over here, I'm a good person, but over here I still have this belief. If we're denying this belief, that duality is going to keep playing.
And yet if we accept it, then it can shift.
When we accept it, yeah, and
Which
stop
is,
fighting it, and not that it's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, just I was going to say, and then in so doing, we're shifting into non-dual, the non-dual.
Yeah.
At that point. So
yeah,
just wanted to mention that. Keep going.
Yeah. No, then we're shifting in the non-dual because you accept what is. There's no fighting. There's not trying to change it. Like that's the whole thing. Like people are like, oh, I totally accept, the fact that I'm overweight, right? Oh, I've been fat my whole life. I have clients, I've been fat my whole life. I totally accept that I'm overweight and I've been struggling with this and that I emotionally eat, let's say. Okay, this is just kind of made up general story. And they can accept it, but they're still in the back of their brain. The subconscious is going, yeah, but I am because dad told me that I was fat, right? And that the boys would like me more if I wasn't so chubby, right? 13-year-old. I gotta believe sticks with you. I will tell you, like my dad, when I was 21, I think, or 22 or 23, I went with my mom to visit my aunt. My dad and stepmom came to visit me. And my dad, I opened up the door. My dad goes, gosh, you're beautiful. I had never heard that from my dad ever. I swear to goodness, that day I went home and all the boys started looking at me differently. I mean, we were all men, but the men started looking at me. Like I became attractive that day because I needed that opening from my dad, right? That was an external duality confirmation that made me feel beautiful, that then impacted the rest of my life and has for the last 20 years. That's how powerful our parents are over us, right? They're like our little lovies. So say this person has this belief because their dad said something, whatever. This is the opposite example, but I just wanted to share that really cool gift that my dad gave me. And yay. And so they have this belief. Their body loves them so much. Their nervous system agrees with that belief so much. They can diet all they want. They can eat right all they want, and they will gain that weight back so they can be in agreement with themselves.
And you've seen this multiple times, as I understand it.
It's a huge industry. I see it all the time. But the second that I say, okay, stop making the fat wrong. Stop making yourself wrong for any of that. Just accept, yeah, your dad hurt you. That hurt your feelings. Let's cry about it. Let's feel it. Let's look at reality right now. Right now you're overeating, or right now you're not moving, or right now your hormones are off, or right now whatever the hell is happening, right? You're not eating enough. It's so funny. We gain weight for all of those reasons. Right? And so whatever their situation, they accept what is. And then from that place, we have non-duality. From that place, you have all the power to change your direction.
Mm-hmm. So it takes recognizing the belief that wasn't seen before, which was creating the duality, because you were on the surface, you could say believing one thing, but actually deeper, you were believing something different or the opposite. So it takes recognizing that deeper thought. And then once you do, you can accept that, and that being sufficiently deep, I guess you could say, then the shifts can occur, all of which at that point is occurring within the non-dual. Although, of course, saying within the non-dual is an oxymoron, but it's non-dual. It's all non-dual at that point, because you're holding both. And so that's what I'm referring to as non-dual. You're holding both, or there are both are recognized. There is awareness, consciousness of both. And that's light, as they say, which allows things to bloom or unravel or go through their process. Because of course, if you look to the Eastern, like in the Indian tradition, there are the three things always occurring. I don't know if I can quote them properly, but the last one is dissolution or death, So meaning, let's just say, meaning the unraveling of the thought processes that were otherwise kind of all tied up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And our reality shifts really, I think, pretty effortlessly and easily when we do find that belief system, that mindset that needed to shift or come into duality in order to stop representing itself in the external world. So you can have a new perception, new perspective. So it's like you have this single vision, like about this is how it is. And we don't think that we have it, but we all do. And then my hands are right by my eyes, guys, like a horse with little trackers on his eyes. Blinders. And then all of a sudden those blinders are taken off and we're like, oh, there's money making opportunities all around me, or, oh, my hormones are off. Oh, boom, you get that taken care of and you release the weight, right? Like whatever was blocking then releases. And if it doesn't, then there's a deeper layer, or there's something else that you're agreeing with that's tied into your nervous system that's creating that contraction, that's making it scary to have that expansion.
Mm-hmm. You can keep going. I can hold my thought. But I held my hand up, audience, if you can't see it. I put my finger up like, and then I was going to add something, and we weren't sure who was meant to speak now. You want to keep going, or should I?
I'm good.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to point out there are at least two types of foci, plural of focus. And I believe the focus, first of all, if you're focusing on one thing, you're inevitably not focusing on other things. And that directed attention is, I believe, called foveal attention, foveal focus. And then the other, which more people are used to hearing about, is peripheral. So when you sit there and you relax your attention, I'm used to doing it with eyes open, but soft gaze, it's a non-conceptual type approach, by the way, but you can even practice this yourself. You can sit there and focus intently on a particular thing and then reflect on that afterwards, noticing that, again, you were inevitably focused on one thing, but therefore missing something else. Yet, that's foveal attention. And yet you can also soften your attention and have a peripheral awareness of more than one thing. And therein, again, non-duality. And I would guess that as relates to meditation working over time, if you do that regularly enough, the softening and the awareness of further things can broaden. And so you become more aware of more. But there needs to be a shift. For doing, certainly there needs to be a foveal attention, a focus. But for awareness, there needs to be a peripheral attention. And these are opposite sides of the same thing, really. You could say right there. But as you relax, so as much as you need activity, you need inactivity. And in that inactivity, the stuff does its work. Stuff happens, let's say, as it is. And that's how things can unravel and fall into place. I think Thich Nhat Hanh would talk about the unfiltered apple juice. There's all this stuff in it. And then as you let it, so you shake it up, right? And that's a heck of a lot of different foci, right? You're focusing on this, focusing on that, right? And then you let it all settle down. The rest becomes clear. And this happens when you shift into peripheral focus for, the more you do it, the more it'll catch on. And then the more you're aware of, and then the more things can be the way they are. and that you're a part of that process, and you're not seeing it because you're only focused on this, that, or the other, which is needed, but only intermittently. We need to enact as well in order for right action to take place.
Yeah. And it's important for us to have that understanding and just understand our own brains. Like so many people, we believe that we are past experience. We believe that we are our subconscious brain. I remember having that thought when I was a kid, like, am I just between my ears? Like, where am I? Maybe that's why I have the 6 personal power zones, because we're so much more than our thoughts, our perceptions, our beliefs, our ideas, our experiences. And all of that comes from that perceptual advantage. But without the focal advantage, we won't know where we're stuck, right? So we have to really, we don't have to anything, but we get to enjoy this practice. And I think practicing it, like you just said, everybody let us know if you do that practice and just like sit and focus on one thing and see if you can hold that focus. We're so good with our phones, right? It's actually creating an epidemic of single focusedness, right?
I've heard that most people are good with their phones. I can't include myself in that.
And then like releasing that, let the phone down and open up your perspective. Go on a hike, go on a walk, do something like that, or just meditate on seeing nothing, focusing on nothing, even though something's in front of you. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful practice. I'd love to know how you feel that. And then as things move up, you can kind of focus in on things that you want to shift and change in your life. Look at the beliefs within them, look at them with acceptance, see that and acknowledge that, if there's that much weight gain, there can be that much weight loss, right? If there's that much lack or not good enough, there's in the same step, the other side of that is like you're brilliant at things. You have that much to offer, that much to give, that much value in the world as well. And so just looking at these things, I think are beautiful. I think that's a huge, lots to think about. Well, we're going to be talking about emotions next.
Before we get into that, actually, let me just say that, yes, I think this was a deep, rather comprehensive discussion today, sort of even spontaneously. And that, in short, that points to the fact that there is a ton going on for everyone. Even if you take your attention away from the phone, for example, you could still be as distracted in your head without that there. So there's a ton going on is the point. And this is part of what I truly appreciate and find very practical with the zones, is that enough is going on for everyone that it is necessary to break it down in order to be able to digest it. And it takes more than just peripheral attention only, which is only half the equation anyway. And that these zones are very akin to something, to a wisdom of things having sort of 5 parts in that case, or you could still think of those as 6 parts. That is reliable because it's not only imminent that I see it working when I look at it, but it's also something related to information or a perspective that's been passed on through the generation. So that is somewhere in between the peripheral and the foveal are these 6 zones, and kind of crucial to really start teasing out, everything that there is to tease out, which is exhaustive. But as much as you do, and you let it take its own form, the ease, you will feel that much easier. You'll be that much healthier. This is just the way it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. I had no idea I was going to teach so much, but I hope you guys get something out of it. And if you did, please let us know, because that fuels us to keep going. And we just want to be impactful in your life. And we'll continue on this duality journey next time, talking about emotions.
Yeah. Fun.
Yay.
We'll look forward to seeing you then.
Talk to you guys next week.
Energy, emotion, exactly.